Unlearned Unlimited. What? Unlearned Unlimited. Yeah. Hey. Unlimited, unlimited, unlimited. Unlimited, unlimited, unlimited.
Hello, welcome to Unlearned Unlimited. My name is Dr. Sito Narcisse with my co-host
Tatiana Echevarria.
We got a banger for you today. We have Manal Al-Ansi in the house. She is the CEO and founder of Diaspora District, and that's the connection between K-12 and global workforce economic education. I'll let her talk a little bit more about that, but she's always traveling between here and the great world of Africa, which I'll let her talk about that. But she's doing some exciting things. It's a sister that went from the elementary school straight to an attorney and doing some unbelievable stuff. We're just honored to have her in the studio. What's up, Manal? How are you?
Hey, y'all. I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Good, good, good.
We are great. We're so excited to have you. You have such an interesting journey and like pathway. I was, obviously looking at your resume and looking at your bio and getting the details and things. And I was like, wow, like from doing work post Hurricane Katrina to Teach for America to working in the Washington Supreme Court. And I'm not going to tell everybody all the things, but
Right.
I was just looking, I was like, man, you have quite a journey. And I would love, and obviously Sito too, for you to just tell our guests where you started and now to the Diaspora District. So yeah, take it away. Tell us a little bit about you and your journey and how you've gotten to where you are now.
Sure. Thank you all so much again for having me. So I was born in Ethiopia. I was raised on the best coast. The West Coast, Seattle, Pacific Northwest.
No, you're going to start some problems
I
here.
know, we're talking about East Coasters
East
over
Coast is
here.
going to say something. You see?
I mean, coming in hot from the beginning.
Love it. We love it.
So, I was raised out there, and I think my actual professional journey just started as a kid being in community, because I didn't realize until later I was developing the type of skills I would need for social impact, which is really just being a community member and being that immigrant child with the West Coast accent and knowing how to interpret and understand English in a way that some of our elders may have needed some assistance with. So it was very early on a value and an understanding that one of the many roles I would have in community is to navigate, figure things out, and bring it back home, whether it's to my family or my community. So that was pretty much how my character development that helped my career started as a youth. And with that, I moved on to doing some social justice, again, really just community work. It's actually just being in community, y'all.
Yeah.
So just being in community and working with people in community to take initiative and build the community you want to live in. That now is understood as, social justice and organizing work and community development and things like that. But it was really just life and partnership with people in my community.
Can I ask you a little bit about, so you got a degree and it was like health management, and then you had like a minor in sociology, then you went on to get your master's and you did that in education, and then you pivoted and went to law school. So what path, I mean, you talked about a little bit about community, but you started out in health and then you kind of pivoted and did education and then went to being an attorney. What made you be like, you know what, like I'm going to go to law school and I'm going to use my talents there? Like what led you?
So obviously, with that sort of background that I've given you, I found myself in college and got some terrible advice, in my opinion.
Yeah, so what was the advice? What was the terrible advice?
Unlearning. Let's do that.
Tell us
So I received some terrible, well, I think she was very well-meaning and she was speaking from her perspective. So I ended up in undergrad. They told me it's time to choose a major. I said, how do I choose a major? That was my question to the counselor. She said, let me pair you with one of our student advisors who can help you with that. I was like, oh, thanks. I need this resource. I don't know who else to ask. this woman, very well-meaning, completely different background than I have, different lived experience, told me, oh, you just choose what you're interested in. That's not a reality for me. You know, education for me needed to be, yes, something, a way for me to attach to something I'm interested in or attach to my talents, but also something that would help me, again, build a life and bring it back home, or build, you know, access certain resources. And that wasn't in consideration. So at that time, and no shade to any sociology majors, okay? I'm a sociology major. But that wouldn't actually put me on the path. It served me in many ways, but it didn't put me on the right path. So I chose that major. When I talked to them about what does this do for me after graduation, it was so limiting that I was upset. I actually ended up looking for a second major that would give me some more options. So then I found health management, where I could still exercise my desire for social impact and that passion for social justice in a healthcare context. So I do that. While I'm doing that, I'm simultaneously very aggressively being targeted by Teach for America. I guess they heard about some of the work I did in community, and they called me and they said at that time, I've never actually heard so many random people on campus recommend the same person. And so I knew, like, maybe there was some alignment here. Maybe this is something God wanted me to do. I looked into it. I've always been an educator in some capacity in terms of, like, you know, working with folks that were younger than me. When I was in high school, I did that with middle school. When I was in college, I worked with high schoolers. So I was like, okay, well, let me look into it. I did it. I got it. It took me to Atlanta. And so I became an elementary school teacher. At that point, I realized impact really matters a lot to me. And where I was positioned, I wasn't best positioned to reach the sort of impact that I wanted. My students were top 10% of their district. They were very successful. But I realized that when I saw a lot of the other educators, there was also this passion to watch a student's mind expand, to give them some exposure to the world, and, you know, engage with their consciousness. And that's beautiful, and that's fulfilling. But it wasn't actually connecting to my purpose. So that's when I said, okay, how do I affect the system? What's shaping the system? Its laws. I'm going to law school. So that's how I got there.
So you know what's crazy? I was just thinking about so like we interview a lot of people, right? And in our interview all the time, we hear people always give their journey, and it's always some type of wall or something they heard, or somebody told them they couldn't do this, or some type of limitation that didn't let them to see the bigger dream, right, of whatever they wanted to do. But we've also learned a little bit that sometimes that influence comes from like who they're around, their family. Like, would you say like some of that influence came from like your determination? Would you say it's like a mom and dad thing, or is this something how you grew up, or your brothers? Like anything around that you would say?
More than anyone, honestly, my mom gave me delusional confidence. Like, if I still don't think I see myself the way my mother sees me.
I've heard that concept.
I've never heard that delusional confidence. Okay, we just coined the word.
We just coined something.
That's it. Honestly, anytime I feel discouraged, my mom's like, but it's you. You know, you can do it. What is this? Where's this doubt coming from? Do you know who you are? Like,
I mean, let's shout out to Mama.
Mama, man, Mama, listen, we love you, girl. We might have to do an interview with you next.
Yeah. So honestly, it just, you know, not making something of the blessings that God gave me didn't make sense to her. And so she never gave a chance for it to make sense to me, you know?
Yeah. Well, listen, you know, nothing.
It turned out.
Right. Nothing happens by accident, right? We think everything happens by design, right? So, you know, congrats, Mama. Well, let's plug into this work, right? Yeah. So you are doing some big stuff. We always know from when we did our homework on you, we know you're always between, you know, America or in Atlanta or these places, and Africa, where like Ghana and those places, right? So we're always looking. So one of the things we wanted to kind of preset before we start was, we know you created this thing called a Diaspora District. It's like a global platform for our audience dedicated to building pathways from like education to career, right? Because this is a big conversation around workforce development. Help our audience understand what that is, right? And what that entails as we start diving into some of your strategies.
Yeah. So, you know, the funny part is I don't think until this conversation I realized how much that may have been informed from the high school experience because I haven't tapped into that memory for a very long time.
Wow.
Mhm.
Yeah, share
But
more.
yeah. But to be honest with you, I don't think there's enough intentionality about realizing education is supposed to set graduates up for post graduation success. And
Mhm.
that's not just career and workforce development. That's an aspect of it. But
Mhm.
how do we develop them to have the skills, knowledge, and personal development needed to lead in a professional space, in a community space, in their family space? How are they ready? You know, the disengagement from youth and young adults with education is because they don't see the fruits of their labor.
Mhm.
And so this conference, we're putting on a Diaspora District Global Education Conference in Ghana this December 17th through the 20th. Pull up, register at diasporadistrict.com. And the goal is to close that gap between the classroom and post-graduation life and career readiness. It is completely different than any conference I've been to because it's a cross-industry conference. There's no way we're going to change this systemic outcome or um, this educational experience, if we don't bring everyone to the table who pulls a lever. So we're bringing educational leaders into space. We're bringing political leaders into space, community leaders who know how things manifest on the ground, and industry leaders who are the ones receiving our graduates on the other end, or maybe just professionals who can help inform what we need to change in the education system. So there is some access and entryway into these different industries. They also have the ability to foreshadow what their industry will need 5 years down the line in the way that educators don't. So we're bringing all of us together to have this discussion and create stronger partnerships, pipelines, and systems around education.
How has that gone so far? What kind of successes have you seen up until this point? What challenges do you feel like you're still facing? Because I think there's truths to that, right? You're probably seeing some great things happening and or maybe, in the works, but you're probably still facing maybe some barriers. What does that look like currently?
So, what's really exciting is that people get it.
Mhm.
Yes,
Mhm.
I mean, isn't that like that's like step number one, right? We talk
Right,
about
right.
like acknowledging you have a problem,
Yes.
or acknowledging the system is broken.
Right, right.
So I think, sorry to continue, but yes,
No,
that is
no, I'm
definitely
here with you.
yeah,
So the what's also exciting is that people are getting it across industries because these executives across these industries also had the experience where a lot of their success is rooted in either people within their social or professional network filling the gaps of what they needed along the way post graduation to
Mhm.
land something, to go into entrepreneurship, to step into community leadership. It really was their, families, friends, mentors, community leaders filling in these gaps. So I do just, caveat, let's honor all the people filling in those gaps, all of these community programs that are filling in these gaps. And so because they understand it's going to take more
mhm.
stakeholders around education to make something happen, I have been just inspired by how many people across industries are saying, "Hey, thanks for inviting us into this education conference where, conversation, I should even say. We're usually shut out of this. Let's talk about the lever we pull." So that's been really exciting. I think when some of the difficulty,
Mhm.
which isn't topic related, but just for my entrepreneurs out there, with a new brand under Diaspora District, you have to familiarize who you are, what the
Mhm.
brand is before you gain sponsorships and traction and
Yeah.
the capital you need to really hit that impact. So that's
Mhm.
been one of the challenges, and we've been successful so far, but it has not been an easy road.
Mhm.
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 So we've the people involved, like myself, we've put on conferences, professional learning, executive consulting in other capacities or for other organizations, but not under the Diaspora District title and brand and organization. So since starting this nonprofit, I would say those are the wins and those are the challenges in the first year.
When you look at Tati kind of brought this up a little bit, but when you look at the challenges pieces, well, let me ask one clarifying question before I go to the challenge piece. When you guys are creating this conference, are most of the people are folks that are interconnected between Africa and United States in this conference in all these industries? Yes?
Not all. I think there's a percentage. So for the educational leaders, many of them are global thought leaders in the education space. So they work in the States, they work abroad. Our tagline at Diaspora District is everywhere we are. So it has attracted a lot of people who have a wide expansion across Africa and the diaspora. When it comes to industries, yes, there are going to be people who are more interested in sponsoring if they are a larger corporation that is in the US and has a presence in Africa as well, because they do want to step in as a more member of the community.
Okay.
So they're so foreign to some of these countries that they're saying, okay, well, let's be a part of this discussion and let's invest in the country that we're setting up shop in, which I think is a good idea.
Hold on one second.
I just want to clarify the name itself, because I think maybe there may be some context around diaspora, like what, for people who are listening and may not know and have enough context. Can you share a little bit about the name, why you decided to, that was, or the community you decided to invest in? Like, can you talk a little bit more? I think that may also have something to do with your own personal background too, but
yeah.
And then I'm sorry, Sito, and then we can ask you like the next question, just because I feel like people may be inquisitive about like, hey, tell me more what that means. Who does it impact? Things of that nature.
Yeah. So the title of our organization, our nonprofit, is Diaspora District. District essentially signaling to the fact that it's a space. It's a space that we're creating. And it isn't just a physical space. It's the space that manifests when we come across each other. I can be walking through, France or LA, and when we see each other, it's kind of like, hey, and we start to talk. And when we engage, there's this beautiful environment. There's this beautiful space that's created when we choose to actually engage and connect. So there's that. There's also the obviously play on words with the school district. It's the type of district we're trying to create, the type of learning space. And for the diaspora, it's establishing that we're taking up this space. So it's not that it's solely for the diaspora and Africans to take up, but who's going to be centered in the space? It's going to be Black folks. It's going to be Africans and African diaspora. And it's a space that we're creating, and it's a space that manifests that people may want to engage in when we get together.
Awesome.
So to that point, the question I wanted to make sure everybody's clear, because when we say abroad, people, there are people who've never left the country. I mean, I just call it. So I always try to say like, give them some
shade.
Yeah. Like, I'm not trying to say anything, but like, you have some conversations with people and be like, yeah, abroad, and they're because they never left the country, their perception of what is outside, is not always like clear, right? And so when you talk about these different industries, these are industries that could be interconnected with these thought leaders that are, whether they're in Europe, like France, UK, or they could be, Canada. Like, so is it that kind of global with also the connection of countries in Africa? Is that how that interconnection happens?
Absolutely, because we're everywhere. So again, the tagline's everywhere we are, because we're everywhere. And so
yeah, so that's why I was glad you guys clarified the diaspora, because usually when that language is used, people just think it's only in Africa.
Yes, right? And that was my intention behind that. That was a good point, Sito.
So I just wanted to kind of bring that up because it's much more global from what we've read a little bit than you're saying. And so here's the challenge I wanted to get to, right? Most folks that I talk to or engage with, when they think of Africa, because of what they see on TV, they think this big jungle and I'm be like, what I tell folks is, why don't you go to YouTube and actually put the country down, right? And go see what
Yeah.
that city actually looks like. And then they're in shock, right? How a Nigeria may look, or how South Africa may look, or how Ethiopia looks, right? Like, so the conceptualization.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, it's a level of ignorance, but, and it may, part of it may be selective, right? Like, you know, and part just a true lack of knowledge.
Yeah,
Yes, that's a good point.
Yeah. So I only bring this up, Manal, because like to us, what we have learned, especially those of us that are fortunate enough to be at a space where we can engage with people around the world, or people in higher level of industries, is like the world is so much bigger than people think, right? And, you know, the hope all the time is that technology is getting people's knowledge to be a little bit better around that. And so what we really love about what you're doing is this whole global approach, especially in the K-12 space, because most of the time in K-12, I don't know what your experience was like, but they only talk about to kids only jobs that are in this particular neighborhood or this little community. Like they don't see the bigger picture of all these great opportunities that happen worldwide, especially if you're coming from more disenfranchised communities, right?
Yes.
I mean, so I think that to me is always fascinating when you're hearing these conversations, and you find sometimes that mindset could be even similar with adults that have not been exposed to that space. And so I think that was the thing I wanted to kind of bring up in terms of like, how do you guys manage? Have you dealt with that challenge, or is that like you haven't really, that hasn't been an issue at all?
Well, what's amazing is you're directing me to the homecoming tour, so there was an intention by this conference being moving annually. So it is a rotating conference from any country that we are. So preferably kicking off in the continent, going abroad, coming back to the continent. And we're going to do that as an opportunity to address that exactly, to give people an opportunity to not even have to rely on technology, but to engage and have a personal experience and connection, because a part of education is through lived experience. So right before the conference is set the 17th through the 20th. We have a homecoming tour that starts on the 13th for people who want to show up a few days earlier, and we will be taking them around the country. We have all the fun things, opportunities to connect interpersonally and culturally. Historical tours. We have business tours because many of the people that are coming are entrepreneurs and investors. We are, gotta throw in a good day party, and listen, the beaches.
Sign me up for it.
Right up your alley.
You know what? It's right up my alley because it means like I can be home by like 7. And I need that at this point.
Yes, we have all the vibes.
Yes.
The vibes are included.
Wait, I don't think they sleep in Ghana during that time, right? What they call it, Denny?
Denny December? Yeah.
December.
But, it's an opportunity for people to celebrate, engage with each other, with the culture, with in community.
Yeah.
It's just a beautiful thing. So, and it's going to your exact point. Again, you directed me to another intention around this, which is, hey, we could also just use this as an opportunity to do good work while you're traveling the world, while you are going with us everywhere we are over the years, So that's
amazing.
something I'm genuinely excited about.
So you said that starts the 13th and that leads up to, I would say maybe like the 16th or 17th, right? And then
so if you come for the homecoming tour, it's from the 13th and then it runs right into the conference on the 17th, and we end with a big celebratory event on the very last day on the 20th. We also, again, like you mentioned, the vibes, we have all these events and networking opportunities and culturally immersive experiences around the conference. So it's a pick your own adventure, and you can have as much or as little as you want in your experience.
So okay.
No, I wanted to pivot a bit, and I wanted to go into collaboration because that is a critical component of the work that you're doing, right? Between business leaders, educational leaders, and this work isn't possible in order to kind of bridge that K-12 into career readiness. And you talked about it wasn't even just solely career readiness, right? There's the aspects of, I think maybe I would kind of tag it as like being like a well-rounded individual, per se. And you're bridging that gap. What does or like how does working with leaders and experts globally, like how does that gonna, in your opinion, really help transform education systemically is really what I'm trying to get at, because we got some significant gaps and we see that.
That's right. That's right.
To like make some real change happen, like not just in the US, and I think other countries are doing it maybe a little bit better than we are, but you know, we got some gaps to fill there. So yes.
I would say in two key ways.
Mhm.
One is getting us in the room to learn from each other.
Mhm.
This particular issue, there's a million things under education that we can be working on. This particular gap that we are filling is one that is prevalent, whether you're in Atlanta or Accra or Addis Ababa.
Yeah.
It's something we're all trying to address. And so getting us in the room with each other, because, you know, as I've said to Sito before, behind every big brand is a brilliant Black mind. We're just buried. So let's
Mhm.
amplify that. Let's have this opportunity to learn from our genius internationally, and we can come up with some stronger solutions. Secondly, I would say we are also putting decision makers in a different ecosystem. I am a conference goer. Okay. I love continued learning. And also, I've been to many conferences that when I go there, it feels like the target audience is the emerging leader, maybe a leader at their tipping point where they're ready to do something differently. They're just teetering a little bit. But that highly skilled, highly knowledgeable, ready to move leader doesn't have much content to grasp onto. They go to the conferences for the networking, you know? And I've been, you know, me and my nerdy ways with my notebook waiting to learn something new. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm not the target audience for this breakout session. So we've been really intentional about, number one, getting people out of that echo chamber of people within their industry. And number two, you know, early on, I said, I want to create the conference that I wish I could go to. I want it to be professional learning for the pros. I want people who are 10, 20, 30 years into their career to say, wow, I learned something there. So those two things, who we're targeting, the environment we're putting them in, you know, the subject matter, all of these things are going to be what leads to the system change. It's going to be an action-oriented environment with different people than they're used to being around.
You know, so you know, part of our show is always talking about things that we've kind of unlearned, and what makes us be unlimited. What would be the things that you said as you've been going through this journey of building and trying to bring all these different minds and industries together, that you would say that people, if you had to say what are the top 3 things that they had to kind of unlearn that you've seen that really holds a lot of stuff back between this partnership between K-12 and this global workforce?
Okay, so a few things. Well, first, this is what's interesting. So this conference also, just a side note, started off targeting K through 12 educational leaders.
Okay.
On this journey, the amount of university executives and leaders that have reached out and said, hey, we're actually having the same problem. Our students are graduating with the higher degree and still are feeling like they're lacking knowledge, skills, and the personal development to apply what they've learned. So, interestingly enough, a new pipeline that is also been created in this is stronger partnerships between K through 12 leaders and university leaders, again, having the same issue to address. So I'm excited about that sort of strategic partnership there. Something to unlearn. There are so much things, but I would say for me personally, actually, I'll end with mine because I think it's just something I had to unlearn in life. But when it comes,
we're game for that too.
Listen, we'll take that. We'll take that.
okay, so I would say even along the process, it would be like the myth of meritocracy or in the myth of control. So this idea that everyone made it to where they are based on merit, just based on their achievements.
Interesting.
Interesting.
You know how many people we've talked to that repeats that same line, just in a lot of
Oh,
different ways?
really?
Yeah.
I feel like we need to bring everybody in the room that has said that same thing, and we may not have space anymore.
Especially those that are tremendously successful. They all say that. They say, like, you know, we talk to all these different people, and while we're talking to them, we're like, wait a minute. Like
that ain't it.
Right. We believe this, and like that has nothing to do with, like, it's amazing. It is amazing.
It is, but that's still the myth that is being peddled to
children.
Students.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Students, teens, young adults, K through 12 higher ed.
That's right.
And so they are navigating solely focused on doing what's supposed to work, following all the steps, doing things the exact same way, when really there's a whole other skill set, whole other perspective, just landmines that we could be talking about and giving them better strategy. Listen, I think we all need to meet at Diaspora District. Bring all those people that have been talking about this, because, you know, alignment.
Listen, I'm gonna say something that you might hit my hand. I was thinking it's like almost like relationships. They say if you do this, this, and this, it's all gonna work out.
We about to go down a rabbit hole, Manal. We need to keep rolling before this gets bad.
But you gotta do all this other stuff.
Yeah.
That is so true. That is so true.
Because it's life. And that's why I make a point. It sounds cleaner to say we're bridging a gap between the classroom and workforce development, or the classroom and career. No, but it is about life readiness. That's just one aspect of it. And I won't go down, you know, a tangent about why I think it's problematic to solely tie education to workforce development, but that's just more about learning from history and how that ends up being manipulated against an oppressed class of people.
I was going to say a certain group of people. Yes. Yes.
You know, and we see that globally, you know, but that said, it would be the myth of meritocracy. And then the myth of control, I would say, is in my lived experience, my professional experience, when you are working towards something and you have a false sense of full control of the outcome and the pathway there, not only are you in a heightened state of anxiety and can't learn what you need to learn to be highly effective and to recalibrate and to pivot with the needs of your pathway, but you're not as effective. You know, you have to step back sometimes and serve as a spectator to your own life. So it's one thing to have a plan, and it's another thing to watch how it's unraveling and learn from that and assess that when your amygdala is not firing off because you're in a constant state of stress. So that would be something I think I personally had to unlearn. In terms of, I don't know if you were asking what I felt others along this journey needed to unlearn.
Yeah, I mean, like, what were the three things? So you said myth of control, what we heard you say, right?
Myth of control, myth of meritocracy.
Meritocracy. And then, so what would you say the third thing is?
And this one maybe can be your personal one if you want to share that one.
Oh, those two were my. I said I was going to save it, but I didn't. Those were my. I led with it. I was like, you know what? No, they need to hear that. So those are things that I think I had to unlearn. I also think, more than anything, this idea that if you're outside of the education system, you don't affect it.
Ooh.
So that's been really.
Please say more about that, especially with your experience working in government.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. These are structural systems that we're addressing.
Yes.
So actually, in education, if we don't have strong partnerships and alignment with healthcare, housing, food access, transportation, the list goes on in these different industries, we can't actually run a healthy education system. So I've always been an advocate of bringing these thought partners into the discussion and letting them understand themselves as a key stakeholder. That way we can sort of build the structural system that a student needs, whether K through 12 or higher ed, to actually succeed post-graduation.
I think about when you talk about key partners that are not just like government based, but just like your run-of-the-mill people that are just in the neighborhoods. The last 2 years in the work that I was doing, most of the schools that I worked with were lower income, high need schools. And one of the things I paid attention to first as I was driving out to those schools was where was the closest supermarket. That was just the only thing I wanted to see. Where's the closest supermarket? And like access to like where was like a bus stop or this, or, you know, like I'm looking for those things. And most of the schools that I serviced did not have a supermarket within a 5-mile radius. They had like a corner store, right? Like
Right,
the
they got liquor stores.
They got a liquor store, right?
Right.
Close to,
Right.
or they had you know, like I said, like a small little
Bodega type.
bodega type. A New Yorker here we got. But that's so interesting that you mentioned that specifically, because all of these stakeholders are a part of the outcomes for these individuals that are in that school system, because transportation matters.
Yeah.
You know, their access to that resource, their access to a fundamental need of getting fed.
Right. That's
you
right.
know,
That's right.
like those things are all a key part as to the success that those individuals have. But the way that you just framed it is like you are a key stakeholder in the success of this school system here.
Absolutely.
And I don't necessarily know that they all look at it that way.
You're right. And that's why I'm all up in these school districts.
you know,
And, you know, even working with governments, and this is what I say behind closed doors as well. What you're describing are signs of divestment in communities. What you see in a community are signs of how that community is being valued.
That's exactly
Guess
right.
what? You're going to see that mirrored in their education system.
Right. You know, it's crazy. I was just thinking about, as you and Tatiana were making this point, you know, I'm a big believer that nothing is by accident, it's by design. There's somebody architecturing some type of result.
What is my key phrase? The system is designed to get the result that the system wants.
That's exactly right.
And every time.
And I bring that up because when I think about like in poor communities, you know, whether you're Black or brown or whatever your spaces are, you know, that's where you find people are the most overweight. That's where you find people's health is not good. That's where, and you know, you watch what they eat, you know, and then you go to places, you get exposed to places where there's much more resources or more a different financial structure or a different class. And you see people are much more healthier. They're much more this. It's much more expensive, of course, right, to be in that space. But like it's all by design, right? And we never talk about that in our communities, right? And so the thing I love, like programs like yours that are bringing people together with these ideas, is that you're forcing us to have these type of conversations to do stuff. I mean, I got a buddy of mine who travels a whole lot, lives out in Chicago doing all this big stuff, worldwide stuff, right? And he's like, listen, like, Sito, your problem is y'all think everything that happened in the United States. He's like, no, we're doing stuff in the US, we're doing stuff in London, we're doing stuff in Bangkok, we're doing stuff and you know, and it's like this whole different mindset. But I would have never known if I didn't engage with him in a conversation or go to school to be in that opportunity, because the people I was around, the only thing they thought about was the block, right? Yeah. So it's just an interesting concept, but you see the same process as you move up the tiers, right? And what I mean by tiers, like you get more exposure, more education, more opportunity. So, because you had to get into this space. You talk about that counselor. You got into that space because you wanted to do more. So it means you got exposed to more people doing stuff. And they were fortunate enough to share with you, right? Which is a whole nother conversation we could have another day.
Even though it wasn't great advice at the time.
Right.
I mean, it still worked. Like you said, God is good. It still worked out. But I needed to pad it if I wanted to make the life for myself that I wanted. What I will say, what I love that you just brought up, Sito, is on this journey to Diaspora District, I met with a CBO, community-based organization that advocates for community health. And I invited them out. I was like, hey, I really think you all should come. And they're like, oh, well, we're in the health space. I don't really know how we can make it make sense. And I told them, I said, hey, education is a public health issue.
That's correct.
It actually is.
That's right.
So I love that you made those points, Sito.
Yeah.
Well, listen, we only got a couple more minutes left. And so we got to talk about the unlimited, right? So we always put we talk about the challenges, the symptoms, and all these other things, and but the unlimited is where the solutions are. So you have been successful in pushing a whole lot of strategies and a whole lot of stuff. I mean, listen, if you told somebody this sister was going to create this big thing and she's got stuff going between one country to a whole continent, most people wouldn't believe me. They'd be like, really? Because it's almost like too big of an idea, right? To be able to put together, right? And so like when you think about this whole unlimited approach, right? What would you say has made it very unlimited for you in terms of how you're helping to bridge these gaps between this K-12 and global workforce?
I would say, most genuinely, I would say letting the right people attach and the wrong people detach. Again, when I said earlier, I love how people just get it. It's not all people. Some folks are like, Africa.
Yeah.
Why would you do it in Africa? Or this idea that because we are doing the conference in Ghana, that we must be there to analyze Ghanaian education. I said, no, it's the same way as if I'm coming from Seattle and flying into a conference in Atlanta, I'm meant to take back what I learned.
Right.
You know,
And
I'm not
apply it in my
flying in.
setting.
Right.
Yeah. So that, some people it clicks. Some people understand who they will have access to, the unique opportunity of having a global thought leader network, and then some folks are on the other end where they can't get it. And I don't waste my effort there, to be honest with you. They'll get it one day and you can come on in when you're ready, because it's more than a conference, it's a movement. And so we're connecting with different people, leading in great ways in different spaces, and we are creating a structural system of change to address the structural systems that we were just discussing.
I had a principal that once said, and God rest his soul, but he once said, am I going to focus on the 80% that are going to do what I ask them to do, jump on the bandwagon and like do what's right by kids? Or am I going to focus on the 20% that will never listen to what I have to say, that will break every rule that there is to break? No, he's like, I'm going to focus on that 80. And eventually, if that 20 wants to come on the train, they're more than welcome to jump on board. Or I'm going to leave you where you're at and I'm going to focus my energy on the 80. So I think that's what like my takeaway is too, from like what you just said as well.
Most of the at least from our engagement, most of the people that are the most successful doing stuff, they are the people that focus exactly on that 80%.
Exactly.
They say it is what, because you're going to find enough people to tell you any idea. I don't care what the idea is. This can't be done. You're going to have this, you're going to have that, and so it's great when you're engaging with people like yourself and your organization that is trying to make big impact movements, right? And that are like, listen, there is no limitation to what you can actually do, right?
And I'm going to tap into those people that feel the same way
that
I feel.
That's right.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about the conference, which I'm like super excited about. So if people want to connect with you, learn more about your nonprofit, the movement, not just the conference, okay, let's get it right. How can they connect with you? And we will also include that information once we share the podcast and such, but it's important that you share it now.
Sure. So you can follow us on Instagram at Diaspora District, Facebook, Diaspora District, website, diasporadistrict.com. It's kind of easy to remember.
Yes.
So please reach out to us. Registration's up. We have the conference from 17th to the 20th. We have the homecoming tour right before the conference from the 13th. That runs right into the conference this December. And just reach out.
Now, I also have a follow-up because I went on the website because, again, I had to do my homework. You guys are also offering opportunities for people to sponsor educators to attend. Am I correct in that?
Yes, there are educators
as well.
Thank you so much. There are educators who want to attend, and also students in colleges of ed who want to be a part of this.
Wow. Okay, awesome.
So they're trying to fundraise. And so we put a link on our website. So if you would be willing to sponsor an educator, sponsor an emerging educator, some students in the College of Education, please go to our website, sponsor, even if it's a specific school, you can put that in the notes and we'll let them know and we will give them the sponsorship so they can come on out.
And
Awesome.
we know you guys are already have a couple of hundred people coming from different parts of the world. If a company wants to sponsor as well the conference, where can they go to do that? To contact you directly, or?
Yeah, I mean, you can go and do it directly through the website. I think scheduling a meeting with me would be great. Manal at diasporadistrict.com is my email. Also on LinkedIn, I believe it's Manal Al-Ansi, AL-ANSI1. So you can contact me on LinkedIn.
And
we'll make sure
we're going to
we
put the
that,
links and everything on our page on the show. So because we'll put all your handles and everything on there. So if anybody wants to reach out to you, we could do that also as we share with everybody. Well, listen. Any last words before we end?
Yeah. What's a piece of wisdom you want to leave the people with?
Thank you for giving people an opportunity to unlearn and stay unlimited. I also just want to let everyone else know that whether you can make it in December or not, you should join this movement. It's going to grow over the years even more, and no one's going to do it but us. So hop on.
All right.
I love
That's
that.
how we like,
Let's drop the
Manal
mic.
Al-Ansi, an innovator. We're super excited always to have great innovators that come to our podcast and our show. So listen, we'll have all the links and everything. Please make sure that you share, like, subscribe. If you have any questions, also if you want to send us some contributions to our site, please do so. We're super excited. We'll continue to cover a lot of the work that's happening in the Diaspora District. And Anala's promises that she's going to come in person, right?
Yep.
We'll be able to talk to her some more, probably before even the conference sets off. But it'll be a great opportunity to engage in a whole lot of different conversation. We're super excited about that. Tatiana, anything else?
No, it was a joy to have you. Thank you so much.
You.
Thank you for the work that you're doing, for the lens and the perspective you gave us today about some real stuff that we need to really be talking about more.
That's right. That's right.
So,
That's right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much. All right, Anal, thank you so much, guys. And don't forget to share, like, subscribe, share with everybody. If you like this show, please make sure you do that. And also, if you have comments, I know sometimes we always want to make sure that our guests get the opportunity to answer extra questions. If there's a question you had, put in the comments or send to us. We'll send to Manal directly, and then she can respond to you as well. All right. Another banger, Tatiana.
I love it.
All right. Unlearned Unlimited.